marvellous, we'll sweep the next election. It just isn't as easy as that. Now, does he have a profile on X? Yes, he does. Is Elon going to support him? Probably. But you see, when he stood up and said that we've got to consider the mass deportation of entire communities, including those born in the United Kingdom, that just moves way beyond a point of reasonableness, of decency, of morality. And that was the moment at which, I realised we just had to get rid of him, and get rid of him as quickly as we could. And I think in terms of the way we dealt with that, we were probably more brutal than the other parties. But you know what? That's the way it's going to be. Thank you. James, from A Spectator.
Zia, firstly, can I just ask how you reconcile your new role with your existing commitments as head of policy? And second of all, Nigel, one of your recent Tory defectors, Adam Holloway, is currently 6,000 miles away, storming the beaches of the Chagos Islands. Is this an early gain ahead of the May elections?
You may have noticed I'm wearing my Chagos Islands, a British badge. I think what happened yesterday is truly remarkable. A people who lived for centuries on those islands, forcibly, and as it turns out, totally unnecessarily, removed from the islands, almost a crime against humanity, frankly, by a Labour government in the late 1960s. They were moved to Mauritius, where they met the most appalling racism and poverty. They're living in this country now, mostly around Crawley Airport, which is extraordinary, around Gatwick Airport in Crawley. The fact that they have landed back on Paros Banos, they haven't gone as holidaymakers, they've gone with the equipment to put together a settlement. They're drilling wells today, they're going to rebuild the church, tidy up the old graveyard and build a permanent settlement. And Emisley Mandarin, who's now the First Minister, anticipates many, many hundreds will move to Paros Banos and hopefully some of the other atolls, and that will happen, as the next few months go by and it becomes genuinely habitable. I think what's happened is totally extraordinary. And the fact that Adam Holloway, who is now Reform, has been expedition leader is terrific. I think it's a remarkable, extraordinary thing that happened yesterday. I wish them well in absolutely every way. A terrible, terrible wrong is now being righted, and I'm pleased that Adam Holloway's given them that assistance. The Americans have nothing to fear, because Paros Banos is 120 miles away from Diego Garcia. Chagos Islands welcome the American presence. And I hope this is the final nail in the coffin of the worst foreign policy decision I've seen in my lifetime. And given we've now had 15 major U-turns, let Chagos be the 16th. Thank you. Camilla from the Daily Tea.
Hi, everyone. Just to follow up on PA's question, actually, Rupert Lowe, according to Find Out Now, is polling at 10% with his Restore Britain. I will ask you whether you think that's a credible figure. Second of all, with the right divided 3 ways, 11 ways, according to you, I did ask Zia Youssef on my GB News show on Sunday if faced with the prospect of a so-called progressive alliance of Labour, the Lib Dems and the Greens, would Reform do its patriotic duty to unite the right? And he seemed to indicate yes, which seems at odds with your position. So are you united in Reform on uniting the right?
Do you know, there is disagreement in political parties. It happens. And between human beings. Look, I've no intention of doing a deal and shaking hands with people that I believe to be utterly dishonourable. And that is how I view the Conservative Party, and particularly after 2019, we got rid of Theresa May. It was the Brexit Party that did it, albeit the Spartans helped get us to that line. We sort of opened the door up for Boris Johnson, helped him get a bigger majority, and I feel absolutely betrayed by Johnson and what that Conservative government did. I've been in business a long time. I do lots of deals. Some are successful, some are failures. But you know what? I do deals, I look people in the eye, I shake their hands because I trust them. I do not trust this Conservative Party, and the best evidence of that is Kemi Badenoch's performance over the cancelled elections, facing both ways at the same time. That's no use to me at all. As far as Rupert Lowe is concerned, there will be some polling published later today that shows his recognition factor amongst members of the British public. It is not very high at all. And so a push poll that says 10% is utter rot. The party isn't even registered. He won't be on 1% anywhere, not even probably in Great Yarmouth. Thank you. Samara from Talk TV.
Mr. Farage, has there been any internal upset within the ranks about your appointments today? And is it true that you plan to make a fifth great office of state?
No answer to the second part. I haven't yet decided and charted the course forward. Any internal upset? Not that's yet been made known to me. And if there is, tough. Right, thank you. We're not mucking about here. We haven't got time. The country's in too much trouble. We've got to get on with the job. Hugo from the iPaper.
Thank you. Richard Tice, you've talked about the need to regenerate industry. Suella Braverman talked about getting more people into trades. And obviously, Nigel Farage mentioned Germany's post-war journey a couple of times. Mr. Tice, is it your intention to reduce the proportion of Britain's economy that relies on services if you get into office?
Well, the reality is we've got to grow the whole economy. But we can see the impact of high energy prices, and essentially decarbonisation has led to the deindustrialisation of the UK economy. And it's been an absolute disaster. And it's why one of the main reasons we've got no growth whatsoever. Let's grow all of the UK economy across the range of different sectors as fast as we can. And for all of those under the age of 45, we want them to experience an economy that's growing 3.5%, 4% a year. At the moment, those people of those ages have never experienced that. It's a great feeling, and that's what we've got to get to.
Yeah, and there's a big change of thinking, you know. From the 1980s, it was all about who can manufacture stuff the most cheaply, and let's import it, export it, let's have just-in-time supply chains. And kind of that argument went right through Blair's time, right through much of Labour's time, even up to and including the referendum arguments. We can't leave the EU because of the just-in-time supply chains. I think with the threats that we've seen in the world from Russia, the threats we've seen in the world from China, I think there is now such a thing as strategic industries that actually matter to a country. And that's why one of the things that Richard's going to be working on is to put together an industrial strategy for the country going forward. So we're talking here about quite a marked shift in what's been a prevailing economic orthodoxy for the best part of, well, nearly, 45 years. Thank you. Right, a few more to go. Lucy from Bloomberg.
Thank you. You and your various MPs at various times have spoken about the need to improve birth rates in the UK. Suella spoke about the scrapping of the Equality Act. Are you worried that that might have a chilling effect on birth rates, given the protections that it gives for maternity leave? And if I can ask as well on Suella, who mentioned the need to improve skills and get more people into jobs like nursing, do you accept that part of the problem there is also around public sector pay? And what do you plan to do about that?
Well, I think actually one of the problems is we put a cap on the number of doctors and nurses in this country that we train, and then rely on doctors and nurses coming from much, much poorer, in particular African countries, where they're probably needed even more. I think the whole thing's absurd. Suella, do you want to answer that stuff about births and families?
Scrapping the Equality Act means getting rid of the pernicious, divisive notion of protected characteristics. But of course, in the workplace, people do require some protection. So, of course, it's all about making sure we strike a balanced approach, protecting those people in the workplace who have legitimate needs, but also getting rid of this whole industry that has grown up over the years, which is dividing people, dividing our country, and doing so much harm.
Thank you. Samuel from City AM.
Thank you very much. It's one from Mr. Jenrick. I understand you have a speech tomorrow in the city. I just want to ask you on a policy reform has already come out with regarding the banking industry. You've previously come out against the idea of a windfall tax. In 2022, you said a tax on exceptional and unexpected trading profits does not inspire long-term confidence. Now, this was about a levy on energy companies, but I'm wondering how you reckon this with reforms policy and a lot of Mr. Farage's rhetoric towards the banking industry. And then just on that, how do you hope to be reforms man to woo the city with a policy that is going to get so much pushback from the financial services sector and lead to firms likely pulling investment or threatening to pull? And if I may, just one for Ms. Braverman. On the industrialisation policies you've been discussing recently and happy for reform to pursue socialist policies, do you still identify as a conservative, and would you say reform will govern
What
as
are these
conservatives?
socialist policies? I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit confused.
Industrialisation comments.
What?
I'll find you the line.
Don't know, do you?
There's actually a case for if we were serious about industrialising our country and the renaissance of our industry, state involvement in our industries.
Well, I don't think state involvement in strategic industries is socialism. I mean, I understand you saying that socialism might be, you know, a very high percentage of the British economy, you know, being involved in what in the old days we would have called the means of production. There's nothing socialist about saying that the British government should maybe take a stake in some of these strategic industries. That's not nationalisation, far, far from it. So I do actually reject that completely. Robert?
Well, if I can concur with Nigel there, there's nothing socialist about saying that our economy should be concerned about salvaging strategic industries like steel or car making. We're losing those strategic industries now, and as a result of the crazy net zero policies, frankly, of the last Conservative government and now of this one, we're rapidly deindustrialising. It's not socialist to say that we want to revert that, particularly when we're a 90-odd% service-based economy that is being massively disrupted by AI. So we're going to have an industrial strategy, and we're going to have an economic plan that salvages the good jobs and those strategic industries. Be in no doubt of that. I think what you're referring to, I said in the past, was I disagreed with the last Conservative government's decision to increase and set the energy profits levy, which was massively harmful to long-term investment in the North Sea. I continue to agree with what I said previously. That is going to be, is already proving to be, very damaging to the tens, the hundreds of thousands of good jobs that rely on that industry, particularly in the northeast of Scotland. And that is something that Richard and I will continue to work on. As regards the city, well, look, I hold my hands up. I didn't work for 10 years as an economist at the Bank of England. I'm not a chess grandmaster. But with Richard and Nigel, I do intend to get out to talk to businesses in the city and, frankly, right across the country so that we can build the best possible, most productive relationship and one of trust, that they can see in us a government in waiting that can be trusted with the economy. And above all, people listening to this program, to this event today, can know that we will be careful with their money and provide the stability that our economy desperately needs right now and is not being provided by Rachel Reeves and this Labour government.
Thank you. Noah from Politico.
Thank you very much. Nigel Farage, you've previously said that a ban on social media for under 16s would be ludicrous. Have you changed your mind, or would reform reverse any ban introduced by a Labour government, hypothetically? And just secondly, other opposition parties have said that Palantir's contract with the MOD should be scrutinised quite closely because of its links with Global Counsel and Peter Mandelson. What's Reform UK's view on Palantir's relationship with the British government? Thank you very much.
Well, as far as I know, Palantir is a private company, very close to this Labour government, who clearly believe in their abilities to do things. I do understand that the government went to Palantir with the compulsory ID scheme, and Palantir refused the business. Well, good for them is all I can say. So maybe there are some nice things we ought to be saying about Palantir, it seems to me. Right, we've got to move on. Time is running out. Let's go to Natasha at LBC.
Thank you. Mr Farage, you've repeatedly talked about the lack of business experience in the current cabinet and, of course, in the Treasury.
Yeah.
Are you sure that Robert Jenrick has enough of that, given his past working as a lawyer and in an auction house, or was this just the price of his defection?
As far as I was aware, Christie's was a private business. Am I wrong?
Sorry, say again.
Christie's is a private business. Am I wrong?
So you're saying you do feel like...
And what was his position at Christie's?
I don't know. What was his position?
Well, you ought to know. Robert, I mean, have you ever worked in the private sector?
Well, unlike everyone in this Labour cabinet, I have worked in the private sector. In fact, I only worked in the private sector before coming into Parliament. I worked in the city as a lawyer. I worked in business, helping to run a great British business. And I've served in government and around the cabinet table, including in the Treasury. So look, I'm proud of what I've done. I believe I bring experience to this team. But above all, what Nigel, Richard, Zia, Suella and I all share is a diagnosis about what has gone wrong in this economy, not just in the last 2 years, but in the last 20 or 30 years, and a determination to put together the best possible plan to fix this country. That is what we will do as a team. We'll build trust in time, piece by piece, beginning tomorrow with our speech in the city.
He's got more private sector experience than the whole of the cabinet added up together and multiplied by 5. Right, let's move on.
Sorry, can I just ask you about...
Well, you've had one go, but go on, one quick one.
Lots of other people have had 3 goes, Nigel. Can I just ask you about the latest revelations with Prince Andrew? Do you think that he should face a police investigation? Thank you.
Clearly. Painful to say it about a member of the royal family, but clearly. I'm also quite keen to know more about Peter Mandelson's links with Russia. Very, very keen to know more about that as well. So, yeah, look, this has lifted the lid. The Epstein case has lifted the lid on a... It's actually... There are now more questions than there were before the files were released. And, yes, Prince Andrew does clearly have questions to answer, I'm afraid. Sadly. Eleanor from Guido Fawkes.
Thank you, Nigel. Last week, Reform opened its candidate application process for the next general election.
Yep.
How many applications have you had so far? And just briefly, Richard, are you still head of Reform's Doge unit?
Yes, is the answer to that, and we're doing incredible things, and it's going to be even busier on May the 8th when we're in lots of other councils, of that I can assure you.
I don't know is the answer. All I do know now is we have to put 5,432 candidates in the field for May the 7th. It is an absolutely gargantuan job, not just for us, but for the other parties as well. The last I heard was last week, and 600 had applied in the first 2 days. But beyond that, I couldn't tell you. But my focus, clearly, has got to be, our focus, all of us, has got to be making sure we really are battle ready for May the 7th, including another 900 seats that'll be fought that weren't being fought yesterday morning. So that gives you some rough idea. Okay, Millie from The Independent.
Thank you. Matt Goodwin has suggested that people who don't have children should be taxed extra to tackle what he sees to be a growing fertility crisis in Britain. Do you agree that fertility in Britain is a crisis that needs to be tackled? And is taxing those without kids something Reform would consider implementing?
I wouldn't want to tax anybody more, but you might give people tax breaks for having quite a few children, given that the cost of living is as appallingly high as it is. And, you know, it's really interesting. I mean, I did a surgery event the other week in Clacton, and bloke says, I'm working 7 days a week. I'm working all the hours God sends. I'm clearing out lofts. I'm doing this, that, and the other. He said, the people next door, it's different for them. They don't get up till midday. Deliveroo keeps bringing food round. He said, they go on holiday. We can't afford it. So there is this incredible gap now. And actually millions of people working who might be better off claiming a whole range of benefits. So if part of our strategy going forwards, if part of it, it'll be up to him, not me, if part of our strategy going forwards is to find some way that we can help young working people have kids in an affordable manner, that to me would be a very decent and very good thing to do. And kind of gets back a little bit to the earlier question about equalities in birth. Right, 3 more. Anna from the FT.
My first question's to Zia Youssef. You've no doubt seen the incredibly violent scenes unfolding at the hands of ICE in the US, and yet you've boasted about creating the UK's version of that here that would round up hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants and deport them. Do you really believe that the British public want a Trump 2.0 immigration policy? And my second question is to you, Suella. You went to a private school that charges £17,000 a year.
Oh dear, you better emigrate, I think. I mean, clearly, it's absolutely appalling.
Richard,
what a terrible human being she must be.
Not at all, not at all. Richard, Nigel, Robert and Zia, I believe, all went to expensive private schools.
Very good, what fun.
What do you say to members of the public who might query your party's commitment and belief in state education? And are you able to confirm whether your children go to state schools?
By the way, I love the FT. It's fantastic. The day after the big Mandelson story broke, your front page politics story was about a reform councillor in Kent. So we'll leave it there and we'll move on. We'll leave it there. There's no point. There's no point. Just write some silly story tomorrow and have fun with it. And we won't bother to read it. Peter from The Guardian.
I've got a question for all five of you. I'm slightly worried about you might be feeling left out. But it's going to be a quite quick one, so yes or no answers will be fine. There's been a big measles outbreak in North London, seemingly due to the lower rates of MMR vaccination. Keir Starmer has released a statement this morning basically saying that this kind of thing shouldn't be the factor of a culture war. It's about protecting people. So would each one of you agree with Keir Starmer on that? And would each one of you urge parents to give their children the full MMR vaccine? Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And by the way, I've always believed in vaccines. I've always thought vaccines have done a hell of a lot more good than harm in society. The only argument is that we were given something over COVID that we were promised meant we couldn't catch COVID again or we couldn't pass it on, and that simply wasn't true. And the government told us that, all the while they knew that it wasn't true. So it was, you know, they could have had a different diagnosis for it. But yeah, to see the outbreaks in measles is, I think, in 2026 is very disturbing, yeah. I don't speak on their behalf. Yes. Do you want to answer that one?
Look, I think, well, I'll only speak for myself, but of course, I'm a parent, 3 children, I believe in vaccines. It's incredibly important that we encourage other parents to do exactly the same.
Yeah, okay. I think that'll do, don't you? I think we've done pretty well with that, thank you. Last question, Alexander from the Mirror.
Mr. Farage, your candidate, Matt Goodwin, has declined to condemn the endorsement of Tommy Robinson and claims some people born in Britain aren't British. Do you oppose Robinson support, and do you agree with Mr. Goodwin about Britishness?
I just don't have anything to do with him. And we know where Tommy Robinson's loyalties lie. He's with Ben Habib, or is he with Rupert Lowe? And are they getting together, or do they hate each other? I don't know, I'm very confused. Tommy Robinson can do what he wants to do, away from us, as long as he stays within the law, which doesn't always do. And it's just none of our business, nothing to do with us, nothing to do with the campaign in Denton and Gorton, which is next Thursday, and which is going to be incredibly close. Thank you, everybody.